Today, we are excited to have Thelma Banks, Branch Chief of Veterans Inquiry Human Resources, join us to discuss VetsS1, which handles all veterans' requests. This program assists Army veterans, Army retirees, their family members, and government agencies in obtaining or processing entitlements and benefits. You may need assistance requesting copies of your DD Form 214, corrections to your DD 214, or requesting documents necessary to apply for a VA home loan. The Veterans Inquiry Branch, VetsS1, is at your service. Please welcome Walter Hurd, National Director of the Transition Assistance Program, and our special guest, Thelma Banks.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our 9th edition of the TAP podcast. Really excited today. We've got kind of a 2-for-1 deal here with our guest. Really excited to have Thelma Banks online. She's going to talk about a couple of things, but first I want to say welcome to those watching today. We're at about 4,000 people, give or take, that have seen the first 8 podcasts. So our next guest, I'm sure, is going to take us into the, who knows, 5, maybe 10,000 people. It's going to be awesome. But we've got today here a friend of mine, Thelma Banks, who coincidentally works here at the Human Resources Command with me, and she's going to talk about something called the Veterans S1. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I said today is kind of a 2 for the price of 1 deal. Thelma, first, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I appreciate you plugging in. And we had a couple of technical things, but you're here and we're glad. But before we talk about the Veterans S1 and whatever that is, I got to tell you, we've got in our studio today, online with me, someone with multiple records. We've got, for the first time ever on the TAP podcast, the first time ever, we have a professional athlete. We have a professional sports team owner, and we have the director of the Veterans S1 program, all rolled into one. So if you didn't know, Thelma Banks here plays on and owns the Derby City Dynamite. This is a women's professional football team. So Thelma, before we talk about work, we got to talk a little bit about this. What is Derby City Dynamite?
Hey, I thought you never asked, Walt. So, Derby City Dynamite is Kentucky's only women's tackle football team. We are in the Women's Football Alliance. We are considered professional. We are also the only professional team to ever bring a national championship back to Kentucky. So I'm pretty stoked about that. We've been playing for about 12 years here in Kentucky, and there are teams all over the U.S. So
that is awesome. So you said that this is the only professional team in Kentucky of any sport, right? That's brought a national championship home to Bluegrass. That's pretty cool. And you are a special guest on the TAP podcast. That is awesome. Now, what position do you play, Thelma?
Center, sir.
Center. Awesome. Good for you. So listen, that's impressive and really fun. Incidentally, I hope to go see you play. I think you've got a game, a local home game, maybe in mid-June. Is that right?
Yep. June the 8th, sir. We play Atlanta Rage.
All right. Go Derby City Dynamite. I'm going to watch. Blow them up. Okay, so Veteran S1, your day job, I guess, is to run the Veteran S1 effort. So as a retiree and a former soldier, I and maybe many of those who are listening today, we understand what an S1 does at the battalion or brigade level. So what is a Veteran S1? What do you do?
So you know how they say soldiers are for life, right? We are veterans, retirees, family members, everybody until the day after they get out of the Army, and their families well after they're gone. It is our mission to be able to process personnel actions for them and to help direct them to locations and to services that they may otherwise not know about.
Okay, so let me just kind of repeat that back and make sure I'm tracking. Every year, about 100,000 soldiers transition off of active duty. Okay, probably 2/3, 3/4 are regular Army troops that are ETSing or retiring. The last 1/3, quarter more or less, reserve component folks that are demobilizing, going back home. So those folks have an S1 back in their National Guard unit or whatever. But for 2/3, 3/4 of them, say 60, 70,000 soldiers a year, they take the uniform off and they don't have an S1. So when they were in uniform, the battalion S1 did all kinds of stuff. They did awards, they did promotions, they got your pay right. They also made sure the staff duty roster was right, and you had the right SDO. I hope you don't do that, because I don't want to be a staff duty officer anymore, and all of that stuff. So, do you do some of that?
So, some of the process, Mr. Hurd, we do corrections for DD 214s, DD 215s, void and re. A lot of times when guys get out nowadays, their retirement awards aren't necessarily on 214, but they deserve that. So once they get out, if they go back and they look at their DD 214, 15, they notice that there's an error, they would submit it to the Ask HRC help desk, and I'll provide that information to you, which would be routed to us. We're like a tier 2 help desk, and we actually take care of that. We also do like name changes. If somebody has a social security number that has been wrong or a date of birth, we process all of those actions for veterans. Back in the olden days, it used to be the 4187, and now it's the par within IFSA. But for us here at HRC, they submit an SF-180. They tell us what they need, and we can help them out.
Okay, so let me repeat a couple of those back. So let's say I got out of the Army, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I'm telling my kids about this medal I got 6 years ago when I was in the war, and it was awesome. But I can't find it, and I can't find the paperwork. Is that something I could call you all and say, hey, I got an ARCOM in 2015, I think, but I can't find the records, and then you all figure that out?
Yep, absolutely. So what we would do for that is we would actually go and we would pull your records out of iPerms if they're housed, and if they're not, we would go to ARBA and we would pull those records and be able to send those out to the veteran. Also get in touch with the awards branch so that we would be able to have them updated on your DD 214.
Okay, so that's the second thing. So we've discovered I did get this medal 5 or 6 or 10 years ago, but it's not in my records. And really, as a veteran, kind of the big record is the 214, right? Tell us first off. Tell me again, what is that 214, and then how do you impact it? How does the soldier impact it long time after they've taken the uniform off?
So a lot of soldiers, when they go out for another job, all of their information needs to match if they do a background check for a position or something of that nature. But the big thing for the 214 is it's your record of all of your service, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're applying for a job, we had a gentleman call last week who's applying for law enforcement, and his DD 214 was wrong. It had the HOMA record wrong on it. So of course they would have to send in the supporting documents. Now for something like the HOMA record, we would have to go to ARBA to be able to get that changed. But if it's anything else within our power to be able to change it, we would be able to issue a DD 215, or if it's more than 2 changes, issue a void and reissue a DD 214.
Okay, so just to remind people, a DD 214, the DD is Department of Defense. So the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, and Coast Guard, if they're federalized under DOD, all sailors, airmen, soldiers get the same form, right? It's not like an Army form or a Navy form. It's a DOD form that looks the same for everybody. And tell me again, what does ARBA stand for?
ARBA is the Army Board of Corrections. So say, Mr. Hurd says, hey, when I served in Vietnam, and I'm not calling you old, sir, but I served in Vietnam, and I should have gotten a Purple Heart, right? We can't give you anything that we can't prove that you actually had. But right. What we is direct you to ARBA, and we can provide a letter saying we've searched you, Mr. Hurd, here's a copy of his records, and then you take those over to ARBA, and they would be the ones to review and tell us he does deserve it, so go ahead and give it to him. We would work with the awards branch. The awards branch would go ahead and say, yes, it's issued, and either they would create you a new DD 214 or we would do it.
Okay, I got you. So if I'm a veteran, either retired or ETS or whatever, and I'm out there in America somewhere, and I have a question about maybe my benefits or my record, or I can't find my 214, how do I get in touch with you? Do I have to go to the local installation? Because there's not a local installation everywhere, right? If you're living, far away from here, you might not have to go somewhere. So how do I find you?
So there are several ways to contact us. The easiest way is if you have social media, you can reach out to us on Facebook. You just look up the Veterans S1.
Okay.
Social media and you want to call us or email us, we actually have a 1-800 number, which is 1-800-276-9422. It's manned from 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Or you can email us at usarmy.knox.hrc.mb-ask-ask-hrc@army.mil. But if they call that 1-800 number, they will surely direct them over to us, and we will reach out to the soldier or the veteran or the family member.
Okay, so is it safe to say, since I can't remember all those dots and dashes, if I asked Professor Google, who, as far as I know, knows everything, and Army Veteran S1, or got on Facebook that also knows everything, and typed in Army Veteran S1, we'd eventually get to you, and then you could help us get the medal or something that we think we need. Okay, so how about if you're a veteran from long ago, we'll say even older than me, if you can imagine that, and you realized, or maybe your children realized after you pass, or a spouse, you realize, I think Dad was in the Army back in the 60s, and I think there's some benefits that go with that, but I can't find any paperwork. Can you all help with that?
Absolutely. So like I said earlier, we don't just take care of the veterans or the retirees, we also take care of family members. So if your family member were to submit an SF-180 and say, I need Dad's records, as far back as World War I or World War II, for the Korean War, all of that, we're able to go to NARA, the National Records Center, and pull those records and send them to that family member.
Okay, that's really fascinating. And I've got to tell you, I've done that for some of my own family, my father in particular, and the records that they've got were extensive and really some family history, really exciting to go through some of the paperwork decades before I was even born. So that's a cool thing. And I didn't realize that you went that far back. So if it was my great granddad or something like that, who I think fought in World War I or World War II, you all could track that down. And I know there's a lot of agencies out there in the federal government that have their fingers and stuff, but from the veterans' perspective, we just need to know to find you, and then you'll kind of help run interference. Is that right?
We do it for free. A lot of these agencies are charging veterans, and it really makes me upset because we're here to support them and do it absolutely for free. That's their service.
Yeah, that's a great question or a great point, because they've already, face it, we've already paid for our S1 stuff, right? If we earned a medal or a 214 or whatever, we've already paid the price and shouldn't have to pay somebody $100 to go track down the paperwork for us. Yeah, that's a good point. So you mentioned a phone number a minute ago. We had on the screen 888 and you said 1-800. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is 888. I apologize. Well,
okay, that's all right. Now HRC's also got a help desk. And
yes.
if you Google, Army Human Resources Command, in about 2 minutes, you'll come up with the 1-800 Ask HRC, I think, or something like that as your number. Can they also direct people to you?
Yes, absolutely. So if a veteran or a family member were to email in and have a question regarding a veteran, they can definitely patch them over to our branch and we're able to assist.
Okay. So how about now? Are we talking about veterans, just regular Army who are totally out of the Army? What about Guard and Reserve who are not on active duty, but they're still in the Guard or Reserve? They might be inactive. They haven't reached that gray area retirement era, so they've left the unit. How do you work with them as well?
HRC is huge, and they have a section that specifically works for them, which is the PAB. And I think they've changed their name recently. So we really come into play, and they become our population once they either start receiving pay, or if they get out and they're completely. So like when they're in the IRR, or and they're just drilling, or between the drilling period and they actually start getting paid, then they will belong to the PAB.
Okay, but can you all help make that connection,
Yep.
just like any S1 out in a battalion?
So
Okay,
that I'm proud of, Walt, is if anybody has any question, any veterans, any family members, even if they're not a veteran and they're directed to us, my team will work endlessly to find them the right answer or the right to help them out.
okay. So we've got a question online here about homeless veterans. So if you're um, having a rough time of it and making ends meet and all the things that go with that, um, and somebody calls you, can you help them? And what kind of proof that do they need to show you? This is, Bob Smith. I'm in Oklahoma. Can you help me? What do you need for Bob Smith to give you?
So honestly, we have a whole business area for homeless veterans. Our turnaround is less than 3 days. So if somebody calls up and says, hey, I'm a homeless vet and I need help, a lot of times all they need is proof of honorable service in the military. So we'll send an SF-180 to wherever they are. We had a gentleman call us from a homeless shelter. We spoke with the director there. He was able to help us get the veteran the forms he needed. The veteran was able to fill out the forms. We sent it up to NARA. We pulled his records immediately, and we were able to give him all his source documents that he could take and get benefits and get help.
Okay, good. That's a great news story. I know that made you all feel better, and I'm sure it made him feel better as well. Good.
It's
How about interactions with your interaction with the Veteran Administration? So they're all veterans out there. How do you all kind of navigate through that?
So we do not work with VA. We do go to them if we have some questions and stuff like that, especially when it deals with medical stuff, because we don't do any medical records here at HRC. What we do though is we will provide, if a veteran sends in a request and say, hey, I need my medical records and I serve between this time and that time, we could direct them to where their actual medical records are being held. And we would provide a letter and a POC, and then they can reach out to that organization to be able to get the benefits that they need. But as far as the VA, normally what would happen if a veteran goes to the VA and say, hey, I need a copy of my DD-214, a lot of times they don't house it, but they know where to get it from, whether it's login or sending them to us.
So that's good. I'm just thinking now as your battalion S1 from back in the day, whether that day was 2 years ago or 2 decades or 5 decades ago. Your battalion S1 obviously didn't provide medical care and that sort of thing, but they did kind of keep the roster of who needed to go to an appointment, and then they pointed them in the right direction when and where those appointments are sometimes, and helped the soldier. If the soldier said, hey, I need a medical appointment, we say, all right, here's the clinic or whatever. So that's good news. So, and this is good for any veteran, male, female, active Guard Reserve, retired, ETS. How about chapter? What if you have not a general or an honorable discharge?
So we've also had those cases, Walt, where somebody will come in and say, hey, I had, a chapter 15, but I want to fight that. The circumstances were unfavorable and, I want to fight that. So before they can actually approach ARBA or the Army Board of Corrections, they have to come to VIB, which is the Veterans Inquiry Branch. We'll look through their records. We'll try to get them, again, a whole copy of their record, and then we will direct them to go to ARBA. ARBA will not accept a request from straight off the street. They want everybody to exhaust all efforts before they will accept the case. So once they send it to us, we look through it. We give them a letter saying, you're being directed to go to ARBA. Now, ARBA is they tell us what needs to be corrected or the changes that need to be made. So if they come back and say, hey, this soldier had an Article 15, however, we're going to reverse it, then we would go in and correct his military records as well as expunge it out of IPERMs.
Okay, so that's a lot of coordinating that you all do, and across a whole spectrum, everything from healthcare to UCMJ to paperwork to awards and that sort of thing. So that's a lot. You all then obviously have a lot of contacts across the whole spectrum of HR support, it sounds like.
Yes, sir. We work every day to get more contacts. Knowledge is power.
Yeah. How big is the Veteran S1 shop, Thelma? I don't even know. Do you have about 500 people doing this?
Absolutely not. I have a dedicated team so we have 2 teams that make our branch. We have a dedicated team of about 17 employees. And
wow.
We even screen gray area retirement packets before they go up to GAR. So anything veteran, it comes to us. And when I say dedicated, I mean absolutely phenomenal, dedicated staff. When we can say yes, we absolutely will say yes.
That's great. I'll tell you, I remember, I think in the battalion I commanded years ago, our S1 shop was probably 10 or 12, and that was just for one battalion. And you've got the entire U.S. Army veteran community, which consists of several million, by the way, that you're doing with not many more than that. I tell my friends in the Veterans Administration and the other services that the Army is the majority shareholder in the firm of DOD, and we are the majority shareholder in the firm of the Veterans Administration and all things like that. And you are taking care of a majority shareholder. So that's awesome. How long have you been doing this, Thelma?
So, sir, December will make 3 years. I used to work upstairs in readiness division as an account manager, but I think that I've honestly found my calling serving veterans. That's
a great calling, and veterans appreciate it. Veterans deserve it. I guess when there's the transition effort, and I see this as the transition assistance program director, but there's so much to figure out, and it's the proverbial 10 pounds of bacon in a 5-pound bag. And it's just hard to wrap your head around resumes and jobs and a new house and a whole new financial thing and promotions and then the kid's school. And now I got to keep this DD something or other. And it's just hard. And 5 years later, 50 years later, 5 months later, you might say, wait a minute, what was that thing about the award? I know they were writing it, but I never got it. Right? I'll tell you one quick success story that some of your colleagues did years ago for a colleague of mine whose father had recently passed away. And my friend asked me if he could get a Purple Heart that he earned in Normandy. And some of your colleagues looked at it and looked at the records and called me and said, oh, not only did he get a Purple Heart, but he got a Silver Star. And the soldier, who's now long since gone, didn't even know it because he was immediately medevaced back to the United States and, put on the train home, and pretty much that was the end of it. And this was just another piece of paper and a big stack of paper, right? So that was a powerful and moving thing that you guys did for one family. And you do that times, heck, tens of thousands. Good stuff. All right. So a lot of good information. We've learned how to contact you. If all else fails, Google or get on Facebook. And then we've learned that you all can really be the conduit for all things that an S1 would do. Either you do it yourself or you plug them into the right agency that gets it done, right? And that's important. How many Army veterans are out there in this country? Do you know? I don't mean to set you up here. I know it's a big number.
Yeah, it's huge. My boss and I were just talking about it recently because we're trying to figure out which states have the most veterans and where the populations are. but I will be honest, I cannot give you that number. But if you have me back on, I can provide that.
That's a good science project. I'm going to ask my staff to work on that and find out how many we have out there. I know it's a big number because we crank out 100,000 every year. And, 20, 30 years ago, it was a number bigger than that, right? When we had a bigger Army. Listen, you've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I know veterans appreciate it. I appreciate it. Certainly, our transitioning soldiers need to know that when they take off the uniform, they're not alone. We've got an infrastructure, the Army's got an infrastructure, and you're part of it to help them. And that's the objective because, as you probably know, Army veterans are more successful than their non-Army peers. They make more money. They are unemployed less often. They stay with jobs longer. They're generally healthier. So all the good stuff, Army veterans, but we still want to make sure everybody that wore at one time a green Army uniform gets the opportunity to be all they can be. That's not just a recruiting motto, as you well know. That's actually a way of life, and we support that in TAP. You certainly support that in the Veterans S1, so I appreciate that. And I'm gonna end here in a couple of minutes, but I can't wait to come and see a professional women's football team. So, do they have like somebody walking up and down the stands going, beer, popcorn, hot dogs, and that kind of stuff, or do we need to bring our own?
So we're not allowed to have alcohol because we're in a high school stadium.
Ah, okay.
We have the best hamburgers on this side of the Ohio River.
Okay, well, I love burgers, so that sounds like a good deal. I'll be there. Listen, I really appreciate your time today. I know the listeners appreciate your time and really your effort. That's what they, and millions appreciate. So thank you very much. Please keep it up. I look forward to seeing you around and just hearing the good stuff that we do. So we're going to reach out on our Facebook page and deepen that connection. And I would encourage everybody to do the same.
We definitely will share and like your page as well.
Thank you very much. Thelma, thank you so much. Have a great Wednesday.
You, Mr. Hurd, you too. And all the listeners, if you guys need us, we're here for you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 9 of TAP Talk. We are grateful to Thelma Banks for sharing her expertise in assisting soldiers with entitlements and benefits. Don't miss out on any of the engaging episodes of TAP Talk by subscribing to TAP Television on YouTube today. Stay tuned for insightful discussions, thought-provoking topics, and inspiring conversations. Join our community of viewers who are passionate about learning and growth. Subscribe now and unlock a world of knowledge with TAP Television.